Hey guys, welcome to the 5th episode of Movie Dissect. Today we'll take on Hold the Dark, a remarkable Netflix movie which was directed by Jeremy Saulnier. He also directed movies such as Blue Ruin and Darkly Funny Green Room, which is already hinting to a pretty interesting movie, isn't it? Macon Blair, the person who came up with the screenplay, has done a fantastic job of adapting this book to a screenplay, and he did it with a lot of respect to this fine work. It's a pretty enigmatic movie and hundreds of bloggers have tried to give it a deeper meaning. Nevertheless, here's our take on it. Fasten your seatbelts and let's go. But first, watch the movie because this video is full of spoilers. But first, guys, if you're enjoying this content and want to know the explanation for mysterious movies like this one, or want an occasional review of a new movie, subscribe. It's really easy to do and it will give me tons of motivation to keep going. And if you really like the video, hit that like button and leave me a comment. Thank you. Hold the Dark is a story about a writer, Russell Core, who gets a very alarming letter from Medora Sloan, a woman who lives in Kilot, a horribly cold and isolated place in Alaska where, let's be honest, you wouldn't like to live in. I wonder if it's worse than Belgium. In that alarming letter of Medora, she begs Core to help find her son who has been taken by the wolves, as she claims. And the reason for asking Core is because he has written a book about killing wolves already. So Core agrees to help, comes to the city, but a bit later on, he realizes that Medora herself killed her own son. Sick individual. After that, she completely disappears. Her sick-minded and cold-blooded husband comes back from Iraq, tries to trace her down for what she did, and mercilessly kills literally everyone on his path. Finally finds her, but doesn't kill her, strangely enough. And together, they just happily walk into the sunset with the dead body of their child. Holy fucking smoke! What was that about? Let's get into it. A woman that kills her child. Where did I hear that before? No need to look further. Hold the Dark is a Greek mythological story of Medea. In the play, we have a couple, Medea and Jason. Together, they go to Greece and have 2 children. But then Medea finds out that Jason is gonna marry the king's daughter just to climb up the political ladder. And surprise, surprise, that makes Medea angry, like very angry. So she wants her husband to suffer. And not just suffer, she wants him to suffer at least twice as hard. So she kills her children. And that means that she humiliated and tortured him. And that's exactly what happens in Hold the Dark. And the parallels with the mythological story are not a coincidence. I mean, seriously, just have a look at the names. Medea, Medora, and just like Medea, Medora kills her son to get the attention of her husband Vernon. The reason for being so angry at him and willing the attention from him is because he seems like he promised to never go away, but he did, and therefore lied. The guy is in Iraq fighting someone's war very, very far away from her. But again, seems like this is not the only reason for her to be angry at him, because not only did he lie about the army never going away, he's also left her with a sick child, as she says. And at the end, Medora's plan worked as much as Medea's plan worked. Vernon was deeply hurt, but when he found Medora, he actually understood why she did it. But even though he was really angry at her, he also just very deeply loved her and couldn't hurt her. By the way, fun fact, in the book it's mentioned that Medora is also pregnant from a second child, which is not really mentioned in the movie. There you have your fun fact, which was not so fun. It's important that we see the movie in the context of those very isolated communities in Alaska. And for that we have to go back to the period of 1918-1919, the period of the big influenza epidemic. In the second wave of this epidemic, more Native Americans died than any Americans ever. And the flu wiped out entire villages, just because the American government didn't give a shit about them. So they understood that they shouldn't count on the support of the government so much and decided to protect themselves and went into self-quarantine. Guys, my apologies, I've just been laughing for the past 10 minutes. But I'm still gonna try and do this take. So just imagine, Alaska is already known for being quite a harsh and isolated place, right? And can you imagine yourself being with almost no sun, in the freezing cold, and with a lack of food? Well, those inhabitants, they had to. And that reminds me of a saying: improvise, adapt, overcome. And that's exactly what they did. Because they didn't have any other choice, they decided to take example from the animals that were on the top of the food chain, the wolves. But it was not as difficult as it sounds, because they already had a lot of wolf mythology incorporated in their own culture. But not only the Native Americans had to adapt, it's also the white people who had to live there for generations next to the natives. So that explains why Vernon and Medora, children of Nordic immigrants, are so close to the natives. So in this case, you can say that all of those people formed a wolf pack, with the alpha wolf being Vernon. So just to recap, it's a group of people who self-isolated themselves in harsh conditions and live like wolves. To me, that sounds a bit crazy. But to the white people who live in the cities not far from this village, this not only sounds crazy, but bizarre, strange, completely incomprehensible, and even sometimes unethical. On the other hand, the wolf people also don't like the white people and consider them to be their enemies. Yes, the city people gave them toilets and electricity, but they let them and their children rot away from the flu. This is sadly enough something that might be happening now again in this corona age. The government, sadly enough, doesn't take enough precautions to protect the Native Americans or elsewhere in the States. There's another reason why wolf people hate the city people. It's the clash of religions. You see, the city people with their Catholicism and so-called civilized world destroyed the shaman religion of the village. And by trying to civilize the natives, they also destroyed the old hunting way. The worst thing is that the concept of good and bad that belong to the city people, which we and maybe a lot of us belong to, is a lie. They think the village people are bad, but they don't see the reasoning behind it. The truth is that a lot of men could not feed their families anymore and had to go into the army. So yeah, what was their job? Killing for the greater good, fighting someone's war for the people in Washington. And that's the reason why Chian has a machine gun in the attic and Vernon kills without any glimpse of compassion. It's no surprise that the wolf culture reacts extremely violent against the city people. So when Vernon is in Iraq, he kills because it's his job. But he does not have any sympathy for his fellow men. When an Iraq woman is being raped, he chooses the side of the so-called enemy of the city people. This woman could have been his wife, raped by one of the city people. The isolation and the brutal reality is also represented in the family ties. It is not mentioned in the film, but in the book it says that Vernon and Medora are actually brother and sister. And even though it's not explicitly mentioned in the film, Medora does call her own child a sick child. And that's probably a reference to her being conflicted inside about a child that's probably a result of incest. But the sickness, even though it might not refer to incest, it might refer to the brutal behavior of her brother husband. The problem is that the child adores the husband or the brother. And it seems like that he also is showing these hints of becoming a killing machine just like his father. It's like as if he's a puppy wolf that is ready to kill a moose when he's grown up. Vernon and Chian see everything in terms of survival, not in terms of good and bad. Chian has no compassion for the young cops he shoots, and Vernon kills Sheriff Merriam, a really decent and patient guy, without any hesitation. For the people from the wolf culture, there is no good and evil, there is only light and dark. But because they are humans and not animals, they have this inner conflict. They have to keep light and dark in balance. That's why the so-called Indian hunter in the mine tells Vernon to let the wolf out. Medora and Vernon, raised in the wolf culture, take that very literal. They put on a wolf mask to become in their own mind a wolf, like it's a kind of exorcism. They learned that a human can never be light alone. Sometimes you have to hold the dark in you to survive. Halt in the Dark is in that context surprisingly close to Apocalypse Now, another film about light and darkness. Hey, what about that old Indian woman? She talked about evil.
You're going the wrong way. That girl knows evil.
Well, she's obviously influenced by the Catholic missionaries. She embraced Christianity and sees wolf culture as something evil. But she too is conflicted, because when she talks about the influenza, she refers to wolves as if it's their fault, just like Medora did when her son died. So, why did Medora invite Russell Crowe to look for the wolf that killed her son? You have to see it as if our character Medea would invite a writer to explain why she killed her children. Medora makes it very easy for the writer. She unlocks the cellar door so Crowe can find the body of the child. The problem is that Crowe is a wolf specialist who looks into the case with the wrong eyes of an obsessed scientist. He is, after all, one of the city people and by all means an enemy. But Medora hopes that because she's conflicted by her horrible action and Crowe is a kind of specialist and closer to wolves than anyone else from the city people, he will be the one who can understand her and tell the story to other people. What he does at the end. He tells the story to his daughter. In that way, Medora is kind of redeemed. Her action was not out of pure evil. It was something she did because light and darkness were out of balance. The director starts the movie with the text, unteachably after evil, but uttering truth. And this is a very Catholic idea. And the film ends with the Christmas song, Please Come Home by Charles Brown, which is also a part of Christian culture. All of those references to Christianity or Catholicism, if you like, they want to tell us that the point of view in the movie is definitely not that of the wolf people. And you can kind of feel it, because during the course of the movie you are left with so many questions about our characters' behaviors. Why does Vernon kill everyone? Why does Chian have a machine gun? Why do they kill a very peaceful cop? Why did she kill her own son? We just got a glimpse of that culture, but we will not understand it. We never will. Medora strangles her son and kind of asks Crowe to strangle her. When Vernon finds Medora, he also tries to strangle her first. And actually, offering your neck is something that wolves do too. They offer their neck and therefore their lives to wolves that are higher in the status. So it's a sign of respect. In the movie, however, offering your neck or strangling is a sign of love. When she strangles her son, she does it because she loves him. When she gives her neck and wants Crowe to almost strangle her, she wants to be comforted by him. By then we don't know why she wants to be comforted, but afterwards it becomes of course obvious. And she even has sex with him to ease her pain, even though she had someone younger in mind.
Oh. You're old.
In a place where survival is a priority, violence and love are always connected. In the end, we see Medora and Vernon leaving with the body of their own child. But from the scene where Crowe was observing a wolf pack eating a puppy, we know that they are probably leaving just with some food for the winter. It is really as dark as it gets. And that was Movie Dissect. Thank you for watching and see you on the next one. Ciao!